Dear students, it's an auspicious welcome to all of you here in this presentation of research. Once again, I'm Dr. Atul Suryawanshi from College, Patsora District, Jalgaon of Maharashtra State in front of you with the presentation. Last time on Friday, in the last week, we studied about how to prepare the research project, how to write a research paper, the various tenets and the elements associated with the drafting of the outline for PhD in English. In the concluding slides, we studied about select ethics in the research. After that, a fleeting glance has been offered to study plagiarism, the concept of plagiarism, select softwares that offer free plagiarism softwares in the market. So we studied all these things. In today's presentation, we are going to study about the area of research. When you go with the outline to the respected research guide in English for seeking the guidance of the specific research guide, the guide asks us, what is your area of research? What is your interest in the research? By listening to this question, we fumble. Our concept is not clear that what is research topic and what is research area. So we are going to study the same here in this presentation. So without wasting the time, let us initiate this presentation. The very first slide clears the concept between research area and research topic. So what is research area? A research area is what a research topic is placed into, but is much broader than the scope of the topic. So this research area is a broader term. Okay. And a research topic is the minute, specific form of research area. A research topic would be a specific question, hypothesis, or problem you wish to investigate and answer, which is under the scope of your research area. So scope is broader, topic is particular. We have to understand this thing first. So let us turn towards the next slide in the series. What are the possibilities of the research areas then? If I want to pursue my research of a PhD in English, in what field exactly should I choose and how I concentrate on my studies is the next question. So the upcoming slides will clear this doubt. So the very first thing, the first area of research is a British literature. British literature is the literature from the United Kingdom, UK, Great Britain, and Northern Ireland, and the channels of Ireland. So this is the literature written by the native people who live in UK. So English is their language and they write in their own way. So I have attempted to mention the selected titles of the PhD in British literature in Kavaitri Bahinabai Chowdhury, North Maharashtra University, Jalgaon. The first title is a thematic study of the select plays of Eugene O'Neill. Second is Ecocritical Perspective of Seamus Heaney's poetry, who is the recipient of the Nobel in 1995. William Golding, a critic, human institution with special reference to his select novels and the contradictions and the appeasement in the plays of Graham Greene. Such titles have been used while pursuing research in British literature. So we can focus on the recent writers. It is the general assumption and expected from the university that the area on which you are going to investigate and research should be unexplored. We should have ample material on that. The respected research guide should have the knowledge of the specific topic. You should have primary and secondary sources with you to refer. So it will carry on your research activity very smoothly. So the first area is British literature. The second is American literature. So American literature is the literature written and produced in the United States of America and in the colonies that preceded it. So this is the literature of the West. American English has its own unique variety. They have their own mind setup and writings and literature. So American literature is a special area to follow and to pursue research in language and literature. I have attempted to show you selected titles of PhD in American literature. The very first, The Poetry of Sylvia Plath, The Mind at Conflict with the Body. This is the very first PhD received in 1995 in Jalgaon University. Sylvia Plath is widely known as the Death Poetess. She is an American poetess who presents a varied theme in her poetry. Second is the stylistic analysis of Robert Frost from North of Boston. The North of Boston is a very important verse collection of the American mystic poet Robert Frost. The next title is the protagonist in the novels of Saul Bellow. Saul Bellow is the recipient of the Nobel Prize in 1976. The main characters in the novels of Saul Bellow. The next title in PhD is Culture and the Black Individuals in the novels of James Baldwin. The last, which I have attempted to mention here, is Tragic Vision of Arthur Miller. Whenever we think about Arthur Miller, we think tragedy. We think tragedy of American man. We think death of Arthur. We think All My Sons when we think about Arthur Miller. So here are the selected titles of PhD in American literature. So American literature is an area of research to pursue our PhD in English. The next area is Indian writing in English. So what is it? Indian writing in English, especially the body of the work by the writers in India who write the English language, but whose native language could be one of the Indian languages. So here again, let's have a fleeting glance on the selected titles for the PhD in Indian writing in English. The very first is a discourse analysis of the 5 great Indian novels in English. Okay, this is the first title. See the second, The Theme of Alienation and Existentialism in Arun Joshi's novels. The third is an analysis of the plays of Girish Karnad. The next is the world of Bharti Mukherjee's fiction. The next is Indianness in the novels of Raja Rao. Existentialism in the novels of Dr. Mulk Rajanand. The study of familial relationship in the novels of Sashi Deshpande. Psychoanalytical study of Shobhadi's Selig novels. Exploration, vision and technique in the poetry of A.K. Ramanujan are the select titles for PhD in English. Here in this Kavitri by Navai Chaudhary, North Maharashtra University, Jalgaon. So these are the select topics in Indian writing in English that PhD has been perceived. So Indian writing in English is a non-native genre in which we can pursue our PhD with utmost ease and sophistication because, Indian writing in English, we have the taste, the flavor of the soil here. Most of the students feel very easy. They feel very comfortable when they write the research project in Indian writing in English. The next area in research is English language teaching, ELT. So ELT has a much scope in research in various skills and teaching methodologies and fields of surveys of students learning English as a foreign language. So ELT, English language teaching, specifically focuses on various methods and various skills in ELT that we drill on the students. So see the select titles. The first is Status of ELT at tertiary level in Kashmir with a reference to English for BCA. The second is Achievement in English as a second language and investigation of errors committed by the undergraduate tribal and non-tribal students in the colleges of Dhulia and Nandurbar district of North Maharashtra region, a psycholinguistic study. The next title, The Role of Media Resources in Teaching and Learning English as a Language and Literature. The last, which has been attempted here as a comparative analysis of Oxford and Cambridge University Press book on speaking skills. So this is ELT, an important area of research to pursue. Research in English. So my dear friends, I hope that your concept is clear regarding the area of research now. So these are the various areas in which we can pursue, we can follow our doctoral project. The next is research in comparative study. So there is comparison between two different literatures, two different genres of literatures. Comparative studies are investigations to analyze and to evaluate with quantitative and qualitative methods a phenomenon, fact, among different areas, subject, objects to detect similarities and differences. So we can put the similarities with the sameness and the differences, the segregations between the two different literatures, Hindi literature and Marathi literature, English literature and Urdu literature like this. So let's have a fleeting glance to the PhD titles in comparative studies here in Jalgaon University. A comparative study of Mulk Raj Anand novel Untouchable and Coolie in English, and Vibhavari Shirurkar's Bali and S.M. Mate's Upikshitanje Antaranga in Marathi with special reference to the theme of exploitation of the underdogs. The next title is A Comparative Study of Romantic Poets in English and Marathi, William Wordsworth and Balkavi Thomre. The next title is Shakespearean Tragedy and Vishnu Vaman Shirvardkar's Tragedy, A Comparative Study. The next title is A Comparative Study of the Novels of Toni Morrison and Alice Walker. So here is comparison between two different authors in English, two different writers from different languages, different themes. So this is challenging task. This area of research in comparative studies is very challenging and very noteworthy. Next area in research is African literature. So African literature is the literature from Africa continent. African literature can be divided into three basic categories: that pre-colonial literature, colonial literature, and post-colonial literature. The major characteristics of African literature includes oral tradition, folk tales, slave narratives, and the African novels. See the select titles of the PhD in African literature. The Clash of Two Cultures in Chinua Achebe's trilogy Things Fall Apart, No Longer It Is, An Era of God. A thematic study of the select novels of Chinua Achebe. The development of the black sensibility in select novels of the Richard Wright, Ralph Ellison, James Baldwin, and Toni Morrison. These are the select titles in African literature, a unique form area to pursue research. The next area is children's literature. Children's literature includes stories, books, and magazines, and poems, and writing that are created especially meant for children. Literature serves children in four major ways. It helps them to better understand themselves, others, and their world, and the aesthetic values of written language. An attempt has been made to mention the select book related to children. The first is Jungle Book, written by Rudyard Kipling, who received Nobel Prize in 1907. And the Jungle Book was published in 1894. Alice's Adventures in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll, means by Charles Ludwig Towson. The next title is Peter Pan and Captain Hook, written by James Barrie. And the recent book, Harry Potter, written by the famous British writer J.K. Rowling, a children's literature. Most of the students who pursue their research in various universities have craze for children's literature. They have fascination for fantasies in children's literature. So this is a unique and new area to pursue the research. The next area is a diaspora. So what is it? Let's understand in brief. Diasporic works are written by the authors who have settled far from their ancestral homeland. This literature is characterized by a deep longing and nostalgia for their homes as well as an identity crisis. So this is a diaspora. They write about their homeland, far from their land. So here I have attempted to mention one select title of PhD here in Jalgaon University. Cultures reflected in diaspora fiction and analysis of the works of Chitra Banerjee Divakaruni and Zumpa Lahiri. So this is diaspora, a different form, area to pursue research for doctoral thesis. So next is research in autobiographical writing. So autobiography is the literature which includes instances from the one's subject's own life, the author's life. And this type of literature is basically woven around the life of the writer themselves. It is a self-expression. It includes various letters, diaries, journals, memoirs, reminiscences. It unspools the subject's own life before the public. This is autobiography. Auto means a self. So here are famous autobiographies, The Story of My Experiments with Truth, which was published in 1927 by the father of the nation, Mahatma Gandhi, which is divided into 5 sections, which depicts the life of father of the nation, Mahatma Gandhi, up to 1920. The second autobiography, which was published in 1994, Long Walk to Freedom by Nelson Mandela. And the third, which has been attempted to focus here, is Wings of Fire, which published in 1999 by Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, the former president of this country. See the PhD title in autobiographical writings. A study of female role models in the autobiographical writings of Maya Angelou is the select title. So autobiographical writing is an unexplored area to pursue PhD in English. Next area is a research in linguistics. This is somewhat challenging. Most of the students think and feel that this is somewhat difficult to pursue and to follow. So linguistics is nothing but the systematic and scientific study of language. It comprises structure, including the study of grammar, syntax, phonetics. Specific branches of linguistics include sociolinguistics, dialectology, psycholinguistics, computational linguistics, comparative linguistics, structural linguistics. So see the PhD title in linguistics. Short message service, SMS, that we use here on WhatsApp, email writing in English language, or linguistic study is a unique work of the research. An analysis of some grammatical errors in English by the select Yemeni students. A study of similarities and differences between structuralism and post-structuralism. The theory between Jacques Derrida and Ferdinand de Saussure. The next title is Error in the Uses of English Tenses by the undergraduate students of North Maharashtra and Analytical Study. So it is this area of research is challenging. It is dashing and tough. So the students feel that this is somewhat Herculean task to follow it. Okay, so let's proceed further. Research in post-colonial studies. So one of the important areas of the research. Let's see it. What is it? Post-colonial literature is the literature by the people from formerly colonized countries. Post-colonialism often also involves the discussion and experiences such as slavery, migration, separation, resistance, differences, race, gender, and place. So see the select famous post-colonial works. Midnight's Children, which was published in 1981, written by Salman Rushdie, the great writer. The next, which was published in 1997, God of Small Things by Arundhati Roy. Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe. The Grass is Singing, Doris Lessings, who is the recipient of the Nobel Prize. So these are the selected post-colonial important works. Now see the PhD titles in post-colonial literature. These are the accomplished PhD titles which I am mentioning here in the slides. Post-colonial consciousness and identity crisis, a study of Salman Rushdie's select novels, is the first. History and nationalism in post-colonial literature with special reference to Amitabh Ghosh and Ngugi Thiong'o, a comparative study. So post-colonial studies is somewhat unique and new branch to explore and research. You can go for it, but the guide will ask you for the same. The next interesting area to explore research is film studies. So film studies is an academic discipline that deals with various theoretical, historical, and critical approaches to cinema as an art form and a medium. So see the PhD titles in film studies. A study of select Indian English novels turned into film in the very first decade of the 21st century is the title for PhD here in Jalgaon University. The effective use of film communication to teach and interpret novels with special reference to novel based on the movies visually Psycho, Guide, Lord of the Flies, and Wuthering Heights. Text and context. A study of the similarities and variables in fictions and films with a reference to the Nathaniel Hawthorne, The Scarlet Letter, and Alice Walker, The Color Purple, and their film versions of the same titles. These are film studies. Most of the films are based on the fictions in English. For example, the Hindi movie Devdas is based on Sharat Chandra Chatterjee's Upanyas novel Devdas. English movies are also based on the certain English novels. So this is very interesting branch area to pursue doctoral research. It is very interesting. We have ample material. We should have interest in films for that. Let's proceed further. Research in translation studies. So this is the new genre of study. Translation studies is an academic interdisciplinary branch dealing with the systematic study of the theory, description, and application of translation. Most of the students at the basic level are taught with Nida's theory of translation. So see some selected translated books. My Brilliant Friend, written by Elena Ferrante. The Vegetarian by Han Kang. Tome of the Sign by Gitanjali Shri, translated by Ted. So these are the select translated books. See the PhD titles in translation. Women and Education, a study of the select Urdu novels translated into English. The Elements of Protest and the select translated plays of Vijay Tendulkar. So research in translation is a challenging task. Most of the time, the common public, the common reader feel the problem of language most of the people who live in a rural area, they prefer their native language to study, to read, to pursue and to follow. So translation studies plays very vital role at certain level. So this is an interdisciplinary area to pursue research. You should go for it. Let us turn towards the next area of research in Dalit literature, in Black literature. Dalit literature is the genre of Indian writing that focuses on the lives, experiences, and struggles of the Dalit community, Harijan community, who have faced caste-based oppressions and discriminations for centuries. So see the select Dalit writings. Annihilation of Caste, written by Bharat Ratna Mahamanav, Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar. The next is Jhutan, written by Om Prakash Valmiki. The Prison We Broke, written by Baby Kamble. And The Weave of My Life, written by the famous writer in Indian writing in English, Urmila Pawar. See the PhD title in Dalit literature, Dalit Feminism in the selected Dalit women's writing. So we can pursue our research and this Dalit literature, a unique and unexplored area of research. It is interesting. It deals with the separation and suffocation and the sufferings and the longings of the common people. The next is a research in Canadian literature. This is new area. Canadian literature deals with the literary works produced in Canada and written in English language. So let's see the select Canadian novels. A Handmaid's Tale, written by Margaret Atwood. A Fine Balance by Rohinton Mystery. And The Life of Pi, written by the famous Canadian writer Jan Martel in 2001. Are the famous classic works in Canadian literature. So the PhD title, Gender Construction in the Selected Novels of Margaret Atwood. So very few students prefer to select this area of research in Canadian literature because this is somewhat unfamiliar to them, but still very interesting. Let's have a fleeting glance on the very next slide, which offers us the actual application of the literary theories in research. We study literary theories, but the foremost question arises in our mind that how to apply these theories actually to the text. So we should have knowledge of the same. The first theory is formalism, which associated with the formal writing in English. So formalism is a branch of literary theory and criticism which deals with the structures of the text. The formalists argue that the study of literature should be exclusively about form, technique, literary devices, literature. Formalism compels readers to judge the artistic merit of the literature by examining its formal element like language and technical skill. So like structural theory, formalism focuses on the structure of the text. Okay. It focuses on the form, technique, literary devices, style of the writing, the words and the language. So this is formalism. Next is in detail about Russian formalism. So Russian formalism is a school of literary criticism in Russia from 1910 up to 1930. It includes the work of the number of the highly influential, reputed Russian and the Soviet scholars such as Viktor Shklovsky and Roman Jakobson. Russian formalists advocated a scientific method for studying poetic language especially. It focuses on poetic language. to the exclusion of traditional psychological and cultural historical approaches to study the text. The goal of Russian formalism is to study art form exclusively from a formal perspective. So the main focus is on the poetic language in Russian formalism. And Victor Shoklovsky and Roman Jakobsons are the exponent, the important figures in Russian formalism. We should know this. The next is cultural studies. So cultural studies seek to understand how meaning is generated, disseminated, contested, bound up with the systems of the power and control and produced from the social, political, and economic spheres within a particular social formation. Cultural theory examines a text within the context of its socio-cultural environment. Cultural critics believe a text should be read entirely through the lens from the text cultural context. So here, culture is very much important. Cultural studies explore the cultural aspect of a range of the topics including youth, race, class, nation, gender, consumption, everyday life, popular media, and the environment. These are the select topics, themes, which cultural study focuses. So this is the study of the culture. This is the study of religion. This is the study of the background of the text. This is the study of the old and the ancient things, while applying what we say cultural approach to the study in the research. The next theory, reader response theory, an approach to literary criticism and analysis that focuses on how readers are actively engaged in the creation of meaning in a text. Reader response criticism is a school of literary theory that focuses on the reader or the audience and their experience as a literary work, in contrast to other schools and theories that focus attention primarily on the author or the content and the form of the work. This criticism, reader response criticism, can be traced back to the doctrine of phenomenology, whose foundation were laid by the German philosopher Edmund Husserl. So this is the study of the literary text from the reader's point of view. What is the response of the readers towards the particular literary piece of writing? Roland Barthes' theory is famous regarding death. Death of the author is at the cost of the birth of the reader, he clearly states in his theory. So when the writer accomplishes some work and he publishes that work, literary work, he dies mentally for the literary work, remember. Okay? And this is the birth of the readers. The readers will decide the caliber and the quality of the literary text. So, the standard of the literary work depends upon the reader's response to it. This is a reader response theory. The next is a psychoanalytical study. So Sigmund Freud is the exponent of this theory from Austria, using Sigmund Freud's principle of psychoanalysis. So what is psychoanalysis? This is the scientific and systematic investigation of the human mind, human psyche. Psychoanalytic criticism looks to be neurosis and psychological state of the characters and literature to interpret a text meaning. Other notable psychoanalytical critics included Carl Jung, Jacques Lacan, Julia Kristeva, and Slovenian Slavoj Zizek. See here the landmark books. If you want to actually apply psychoanalytical approach to the certain literary text in English, we have to study the basic theory of Sigmund Freud first in the very beginning of psychoanalytical research. Most of the time, the NET and SAT examinations focus on the book of Dr. Sigmund Freud entitled Interpretation of Dreams, which published in the year 1900. The second important book written by Sigmund Freud is A Psychopathology of Everyday Life, published in 1904. And the third book in the series is Totem and Taboo, which published in 1930. So if you want to explore psychoanalytical approach and want to apply the psychoanalytical theory exactly to the literary piece of work, some novel, I request you to go through these books first, written by Sigmund Freud. So let's have a fleeting glance on the psychoanalytical theory of Sigmund Freud. Sigmund Freud discussed four major aspects of this theory. The first is a structural theory, which focuses on id, ego, and superego. The second point is topographic point of view, that means the levels of the mind, conscious, unconscious, and subconscious. The third is a psychosexual development of the subject. And the fourth are various defense mechanisms that the subject adopts to protect the personality from being shattered, from being disintegrated. Sigmund Freud talks about the two types of mental disorders in his theories, and the first is neurotic and the second is psychic disorder. Neurotic patients are those patients who can be cured with some sort of treatment, but psychic patients they are beyond cure. Okay. So this is Sigmund Freud's psychoanalytical theory in brief. Apart from Sigmund Freud, the post-Freudian psychoanalyst also plays a very vital role here in this theory. The first is Carl Jung, a Swiss psychiatrist who is the exponent of the collective unconsciousness. So this term, collective unconsciousness, has been focused on NET and SAT examination. I request you to remember this. This is collective unconscious, which each and everyone has some ancient memory, some common memory, which is collective unconsciousness. The second is Jacques Lacan illustrates the mirror stage when the subject identifies the own image, own reflection in the mirror, is mirror stage, described by Jacques Lacan. Now, the next psychoanalyst, the recent one, like Julia Kristeva, Slavoj Zizek, is a Slovenian psychoanalyst who clarifies the term the real, the imaginary, and the symbolic. Real means what exists here on this earth is a real. The imaginary things, fantasies, for example, the children's literature, and the symbolic means the symbols associated with something. This is Slavoj Zizek's theory. The next area to pursue is structuralism. Ferdinand de Saussure states in his famous book, Course in General Linguistics, which published in 1916, structuralism considered language as a system of sign and signification. So this is sign, signification, and signifier, which he talks about. Structuralism deals with this scientific process of identifying and analyzing the codes, the form, the sign, and the system, and the symbols embedded in literary text. Language is conceived as a self-contained and self-regulating thing. Construction depends on the associative principles of contrast, means opposition, similarity means sameness, contiguity, and frequency. So these are the subsections of the theory of structuralism. And the exponent is Ferdinand de Saussure, the French linguist. So structuralism deals with a certain aspect of the language. But apart from that, a different theory is propounded, post-structuralism. Post means after. So post-structuralism rejects the idea of a literary text having a single purpose, a single meaning, or a singular existence. Post-structuralism is a term for a philosophical and literary form of the theory that both built upon and rejects idea established by structuralism. This is somewhat opposite theory to structuralism. Post-structuralism points that truth is not a fixed concept as structuralism deals with, but instead of this, constantly changes based on cultural, political, social, and economic positions here in this world. So truth is a dynamic term, not static. When we talk about in terms of post-structuralism, post-structuralism includes Roland Barthes, Jacques Derrida, Michel Foucault, and Jean Baudrillard. They are the select exponents of the theory of post-structuralism. The next theory is a Marxist theory. Karl Marx, an important theory, which is associated with the common working class. A type of literary criticism based on the writing of the German philosopher Karl Marx. Marxist criticism attempts to show the relationship between literature and the social, mainly economic condition under which it was produced. Marxist theory examines the literature along with the lines of the class relations and social ideals. It is this struggle between opposing classes that results in social transformation. He believes in social transformation. He believes in equality. He believes a better life for the common people. So history progresses through its class struggle. Class struggle originates out of the exploitation of one's class by another throughout the history. 20th century Marxist literary critics include George Lucas, Antonio Gramsci, Louis Althusser, Terry Eagleton, Raymond Williams, and Frederick Jameson are the select literary figures associated with the theory of Karl Marx. The next theory is feminism. Feminism is about all genders having equal rights and opportunities. It's all about respecting diverse women experiences, identities, knowledge, and strength, and striving to empower all women to realize their full rights. Feminism is a range of socio-political movements and ideologies that aims to define and establish the political, economic, and personal and social equality for female class. So this is, in short, asserting the women's right. This is the effort to offer women empowerment. So there are certain waves of feminism. Up to this time, there are 4 waves of feminism. The present slides focuses on that. The first wave of feminism from 1848 up to 1920. The main aim of the first wave of feminism was to again recognize that women are also human beings. It deals with the property rights and the rights to vote. Because at the time, the women don't have the right to vote. It narrates the suffering of the black and the Negro women especially. The second wave of feminism, initiated in 1920 and lasted up to 1975, focuses on the equality and anti-discrimination. It is about educating women's legal rights. The third wave of feminism, which began in 1975 and lasted up to 2012, regarded race, social class, and transgender rights as central issues. The concept of girl power also came here at this time. It is about defending pornography, sex work, intercourses, and marriage, and reducing the stigma around it, sexual pleasure and feminism. So it is about uplifting the status of the women in the society. They are struggling continuously to improve the scenario and to improve the plight of the women in the society. The fourth wave of feminism, initiated in 2012 and is lasting up to this time now, it focuses on the empowerment of women and the use of internet as an important tool to assert the women's rights. So these are the certain waves of feminism. If I want to apply feministic point of view to the literary research work, these things should be taken into account first. So is the reason an attempt has been made to focus on select classic books in feminism. Without reading books, you cannot pursue your research in feminism. The first landmark book entitled Vindication of the Rights of the Women by Mary Wollstonecraft, which was published in 1792. So here, in this very first book, Mary Wollstonecraft focuses on the reality that women should be independent, economically independent. She should educate herself, because education is the single most crucial issue in the life of the women. Education is a means of social transformation. So Mary Wollstonecraft focuses on the same reality. And she very clearly states in that essay, if a weak women go astray, the stars are more fault than they, she says. So this is the very first book asserting women's rights. The second, A Room of One's Own, published in 1929 by Virginia Woolf. The next book, The Second Sex, published in 1949 by the French writer Simone de Beauvoir. She says in this book that the first sex is the male sex and the second sex is woman's sex, the female class. So the woman is always subordinated in the male-dominant society. It should not be like that. She seeks justice and equality for the female class here in this work. The next work is The Bell Jar, published in 1963 by the American writer Sylvia Plath. The next work was published in 1970 by Kate Millett, entitled Sexual Politics. And the recent book, Gender Trouble, Feminism and the Subversion of Identity, published in 1990 by Judith Butler, are the classic and the landmark books in feminism. Without going through these books, we cannot apply feminism to any literary text, remember. So books are important. We have to study the core theory first. The next is Ecocritical Study. This is ecological study. So what is ecocriticism? It is to investigate the global ecological crisis through the intersection of literature, culture, and the physical environment. Ecocriticism is the interdisciplinary study of the connection between literature and the environment. So ecocritical study, ecological criticism, is associated with the protection of nature and environment. And awareness has been created through the selected writing literary pieces that the trees should be planted and nature should be protected. The crucial issues related to environment, for example, the greenhouse gases and the global warming, have been pinpointed and focused here in this study. An attempt has been made to mention the three books here. The first, which was published, the landmark book written by Henry David Thoreau, the American philosopher, which published in 1854, entitled Walden by H.D. Thoreau. The second book, Silent Spring, which published in 1962 by Russell Carson. And the third book, which is the recent book written by Richard Powers, entitled The Overstory, which is an effort by such writers to create environmental awareness among the masses to protect the environment. See the PhD titles in ecocriticism. The first is Ecological Awareness, a prismatic study of Henry David Thoreau's and Maruti Chittampalli's select essays. The next is Ecocultural Perspective on William Golding and Amitav Ghosh's select fictions. So, ecocritical study is somewhat exceptional area to explore in research. So, I have mentioned the select areas of research here in this presentation. So if you want to search the thesis associated with your area of interest, I request you to visit InflibNet. So what is InflibNet? This is Information and Library Network, InflibNet. This question has been asked in the NET examination. And this was set up in 1991 in Gandhinagar, Gujarat. This is the information and library network especially meant for the students. This organization in FlipNet promotes and facilitates library and information resources for the Indian students for the further education and the research. So for the very first thing, select your area of research, visit in FlipNet, search Show the Ganga on InFlipNet, search the research titles on the topic, the thesis associated with your area of interest. Go through it, read it. So it will be an easy task for you to pursue your research in the particular field in that area. The second point is a Show the Ganga in FlipNet. What is Show the Ganga? It is located at InFlipNet, a storehouse or reserve of Indian thesis, is a digital repository of the thesis and dissertations submitted to universities in India. It makes PhD work available to the entire scholarly community in open access. As I have pursued my PhD here in this Kavitri Bainabai Chaudhary, North Maharashtra University, Jalgaon in Maharashtra state. My thesis has been reposited by the university on Shodh Ganga. You can access it. You can go through it. You can see my research topic and my work. You can analyze my work. You can decide the standard of that research itself on Shodh Ganga. So it is important source of the knowledge. It is important source to study for research purpose. The next is Delnet. So what is Delnet? See, it is a developing library network. Delnet is a developing library network. Has all types of libraries as its members, including university libraries, then college libraries, then what we say public libraries, school libraries, private organizations, and so on. So there is a difference between InFlipNet and Telnet. I hope that this presentation will make your concept very clear regarding this. InFlipNet is the information and library network on which on Show the Ganga you can search the related thesis on the topic. And Delnet is the developing of the library network among the schools and the colleges and the universities and the private organizations. This is Delnet. I hope that now your concept regarding InFlipNet, Show Ganga, Delnet, and the area of research is quite clear now. So my dear friends, the time has come now to stop our presentation and say thank you to you for today. This is the end of today's lecture. Tomorrow we will go directly the questions and the answers related to the research aptitude, which has been pinpointed and focused in the NET and SET examination. We will study this, the question answers. So for today, let's stop today. Thank you very much for being with me always very positively. Have a nice time. God bless you all. Thank you so much. Jai Hind. I stop my presentation.